Okay. Triple G is probably right now the smartest boxer that it is because if he beats Canelo, he's going to look like a god. You know, you beat a boxer that's, supposedly on PEDs, and if you lose, hey, you lost to a boxer that's on PEDs. So either or.
Well, listen, you can look at it that way. Here's why I don't think that Triple G was that smart. Wouldn't we both agree, Brian, that Saul Canelo Alvarez is box office? He's the biggest attraction in boxing as we speak. Wouldn't we say that?
Absolutely.
I mean, Lomachenko is arguably the best pound for pound along with Terrence Crawford. These are some big time brothers. But in terms of box office appeal, Canelo Alvarez is it. Make no mistake about it. So my attitude is this. He's got that that Mexican fan base and all of that other stuff. Anthony Joshua, look out for him because them folks in England they'll travel the world over to support him. And I can't wait to see him against Deontay Wilder. I want that fight bad. But here's my point to you. Triple G saying that about Canelo Alvarez. What's to stop Canelo Alvarez from saying, you know what, bump this. Y'all can kiss off. I don't want nothing to do with y'all. What's to stop that from happening? Because you put me in a position where, if I win, I cheated. Why do I need you? When I can find the James Kirklands of the world to go and knock out. What I need you for? You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, but the same thing what happened from before when they kept saying how, he was afraid to take the fight with Triple G, in his prime. And then now he definitely doesn't fight him now.
It's a good argument. That's a good argument. I guess what I'm saying is Triple G stalked him for that fight. So my point is that you messing with the cash cow now by talking about it. Had you said this after the fight, had you said this, that would be different. I mean, Cinco de Mayo, bro. We getting ready to have this fight in May. And you bring it up now? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? I mean, what's to stop Canelo from saying, man, kick rocks. I don't need you. I don't need you. I can fight less opponents. Listen, Canelo Alvarez can fight Daniel Jacobs. He can go down to the junior middleweight division and conquer. He's only fought about 2 or 3 fights at the middleweight spot, bro. So he's got options. You feel what I'm saying? I don't think it was wise for Triple G to do that. And I love Triple G. I don't think it was wise for him to do that. I truly don't. But I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Let's go to Jay in Idaho. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Jay?
Oh, not a lot. Thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it.
Go ahead, man.
I'm of the opinion that even though he already has, Trae Young should absolutely not have declared for the NBA draft. Look at him. Look at Mo Bamba. I understand. So you can look and say, both same kind of guys that do very different things on the floor, very valuable. But here's my thing. I've seen this. We've seen it for a decade or more. When you got a small guard, point guard especially, how long does it take for them to get truly effective in the NBA? 2-3 years, right? Mm-hmm. And except for guys like maybe John Wall or Kyrie Irving a little bit, who are just freaks of nature. But the reality is most college guards are not strong enough. They're not big enough. Some of them aren't just quick enough. Even Steph Curry was not Steph Curry for about 3 years between his health issues and other kind of stuff. And for an 82-game season, maybe the playoffs, or you have an 82-game season with a crappy franchise with bad coaching and bad management, I'm sorry, but the list of guys that are 6'2", 6'1", and leave as a freshman, do the one and done, they don't cut it. They really don't. They should stay in school for a couple more years.
I don't know if he should stay in school. I don't know if he should stay in school because, first of all, how much is Lon Kruger going to teach him? How much is he going to learn at Oklahoma? I'm not so sure about that. That's A. B, I think that how much better can he be than averaging 27 and 8? He stays, he may get exposed, and he may diminish his draft stock if he stays. I'm not sure that's the wise call for him to make.
Well, I understand, but my thing is, look, guys like DeAndre Ayton and Marvin Bagley Jr., they look like NBA guys already, and they're going to be fine.
I'll tell you this much. Bagley needs to get ambidextrous. I need to see him use that right hand more.
That's a good point.
I don't need to see him be a one-armed bandit. Bagley needs to become a bit more ambidextrous and versatile and needs to use both hands instead of just his left.
But, I mean, honestly, can you list a lot of guys that are little and that they really have – and sometimes, man, that's going to ruin your career.
I would say this to you. You probably have a point, but the only caveat in all of this is two things. Number one, the style of play that presently exists in the NBA, and B, how much you get to dictate your own success when the ball is going to be in your hands. If you're an undersized 2, that would be different. If you're an undersized 3, that would be different. But when you're the point guard, the ball is in your hands, and you have the capability of making things happen. And when I spoke to Trae Young earlier this morning, he was alluding to the space that takes place on the floor in the NBA game, how there are multitudes of threats, and how it's easier to get open shots on the NBA level than it would be in college. And so when you consider that, along with the fact that as other people's plays elevated, so did his play because he had somebody to give the ball to and defer to. We can't ignore that as well. That might be advantageous for him, which is all the reasons that I support him transitioning to the pro level. Appreciate the call, though, man. Good point, Jay. Thanks a lot for the call. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. More of your calls to close out the show in a minute. You're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Back to the folds we go right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Let's go to Charlie in Queens. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead real quick, Charlie.
Hey, Stephen A. Big fan of you since your days on 1050 ESPN New York.
Thank you, man. Go ahead.
So, Stephen A., I agree with the part that Jeff Hornacek, I'm a loyal Knicks fan, and Jeff Hornacek needs to be fired because he's a lame duck coach walking around. He cannot improve the players. He doesn't fit with New York. And I agree, Mark Jackson should be the head coach of the New York Knicks next. But I don't know, because the next year, with Porzingis out for I'd say probably another year, probably exactly a year.
Hold on,
next year's another throwaway season.
What do you mean? What do you mean Porzingis out for another year?
He's not going to be back until March or next year or March. So it's possibly another throwaway season. So I don't know. I don't mind.
No, that's not what I was hearing about Porzingis. I heard he could be back earlier than that.
But I kind of worry about it. So because yeah.
All right. Well, listen. The bottom line is this: Mark. Again, you need a voice for the New York Knicks. Understand that Phil Jackson threw Carmelo Anthony to the Wolves. He had Carmelo Anthony being the voice for the New York Knicks. Players ain't got time for that. Players that takes away from you psychologically. It's amazing Melo survived when he was in New York. By the way, I saw Melo miss those 2 free throws last night. I didn't miss that against Boston. That's not usually like him. I was very disappointed. It's not usually like him. But I appreciate the call. Thanks you so much. Thank you. Let's go to Calhoun in Atlanta. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead real quick.
Hey, how you doing, man? Love your show. Hope God continue to bless you.
Thank you, man. Same to you. Go ahead.
All right, I got a question. I'm a diehard Lakers fan. So, would you saying the Lakers should target Trae Young? We don't own our pick. So you saying we should trade Lonzo?
No, you don't have a first-round pick. You don't have a first-round pick. In fairness to you, I completely forgot about the fact that the Sixers get your pick. And unless it goes to the 3, fall into the 2 to 5 range, I believe, then it could go to Boston. But I completely forgot that the Lakers don't have the first round pick this year. That's why I said it. So I was premature on my part. It was a mistake on my part. I totally forgot about that.
All right, man. That was my only question. Thank you, Stephen A.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Let's go to Ethan in Dallas. You're live with Stephen A. What's up going on, Ethan? How are you?
Hi, I'm good, Stephen A. I just want to let you know I'm a huge fan. Heard you on Mark Levin's show. And, I've always been a fan of yours.
The great one.
The great one.
All right.
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. Go ahead, man.
And
he's a phenomenal.
One more thing,
Listen, I don't agree with his politics half the time, and he knows that. But he is one phenomenal host. He's actually a really good guy to talk to as well. But go ahead.
I mean, speaking of that, actually, real quick, if you don't mind, I have a radio show. Had a radio show in Goodwell, Oklahoma, in the Panhandle, Oklahoma, up there in the town I went to college, and. I listen to your takes and see, and, I know people out there. Anyway.
I appreciate it. Go ahead, man.
Anyway, I want to talk about the MVP race and how, yes, I know you're a big fan of James Harden being the MVP. I know everyone really is.
This year. Yeah.
This year, yes. And I'm thinking most of the time, the MVP, if it truly is a most valuable player to that team, who most of the time, in the past at least 8 years, who would really be the MVP of the league ever? LeBron, of course.
Yeah. But at the same time, you have to take into account the kind of year somebody's having, even when you know the other player's better. James Harden ain't LeBron James. But look at the chaos that happened in Cleveland this year. You lose Kyrie. He leaves in part because he doesn't want to play for you, with you. Your team is dysfunctional the first half of the year because Dwayne Wade came on board and you alienated other players because you were so tight with D Wade. The list went on and on. All of that's on LeBron too. So LeBron is the greatest player in the world. Great person, by the way. Great role model and all of this other stuff. He didn't commit any crimes. But what I'm saying to you is that this particular season wasn't his greatest because we have to take all of those things into consideration in terms of the collateral damage he caused or had something to do with. And that takes away from his MVP stature as well because Cleveland's struggles have everything to do with him. Period. James Harden hasn't had that problem this year. Gotta run. I got to run, though. But thank you so much. I appreciate the call. Let's go to Mike in Charlotte. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead real quick, Mike. Go.
Hey, Stephen A., first-time caller, go Duke. I just wanted to know, even though I don't like how Ty Lue makes his adjustments when they are down in the game, why do you think that they should be just fine without him, just like the Rockets and the Warriors?
Because it's for the time being. Because it's for the time being. You know, if he was gone, period. I also think that Larry Drew and those guys are an experienced enough staff where they can deal with it. And the greatness of LeBron James is a basketball savant. I think the combination of all of those things, you have to remember, it's not like he leaves because of friction or whatever the case may be. He's not healthy. And if he's not healthy, then you're literally playing while looking at him on the sidelines, worried about him because his health was debilitating, which is why he had to stay away. And I think that once that situation gather some kind of resolution, like it has, because he's finally decided to address his health as a priority, I think that's something that bodes well for the team. And it pushes them in the right direction. Got to run, though. Appreciate the call. John in Manhattan, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, John.
Hey, Love Doctor. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Go ahead.
Your opinion on NBA Coach of the Year. For me, it's between Nate McMillan and Wayne Casey.
To me, it's between Nate McMillan and Mike D'Antoni and Dwayne Casey. Can't ignore Mike D'Antoni with the way Houston's been playing. 23 of 24, 17-game winning streaks and all of this other stuff. I mean, they've been absolutely phenomenal. You got to give Mike D'Antoni some credit for that.
Oh, that's true. Now, another question. If Mark Jackson becomes the coach in 2019, do you think the Knicks would consider reaching out to Klay Thompson?
Talk to me then. I'm not thinking about that now. Let's crawl before we walk. This is James Dolan's team we're talking about, for crying out loud. What the hell is wrong with you? Trying to jinx everything? Goodbye. Jack in Brooklyn, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Jack, go.
Thanks so much, Stephen A., for taking my call. I want to call about the Miami Heat. I want to know, what do you think the best case scenario for them is? Like, which seed they can reach, and who do you think they want to play? Do they want to play Cleveland, Boston, or Indiana?
The Miami Heat?
Yeah.
I would say they'd want to play Cleveland, because I think they'd be up for it. Now, whether they would win or not remains to be seen. I think that they have a better shot of beating Indiana, or Philadelphia, or Washington. But the problem with the Heat is they play down to the competition as much as they play up to it. I think LeBron will bring out the best in them because they'd want to knock him off. Whether they succeeded or not, I doubt it. But they'd be highly energized and enthusiastic and about knocking off the king. And I think that's what they would try to do. And I think that's why when you ask which team they would prefer, whatever the case may be, listen, the Miami Heat wouldn't mind going up against LeBron James. I think they'd relish that opportunity, that challenge. I assure you that Pat Riley and those guys would make sure they didn't run from it. I can promise you that. Got to get on out of here. Hope y'all enjoyed the show today. We got a lot of stuff to get into as the draft approaches, as the NBA playoffs approach, and we see what teams are doing what. Lots more to talk about, and we will 22 hours from now. Until then, I'll talk to you. Stephen A. Peace and love. Signing off.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.